sometimes almost think, hey, it seems like. So I know there is a wealth of experience and knowledge on this call, and that's the strength. And I really wanted to start with just sharing from programs how they're handling, what's going on with this response to the COVID-19 outbreak. And I list up there, I think there's 3 really broad areas we can talk about challenges to the program as programming and still delivering our program, given that we're practicing social distancing and not meeting face to face, how we're handling things as an organization, supporting staff, and our different working conditions, perhaps. And I know concerns about financials too. There were a lot of fundraisers scheduled in this time of closures and avoiding large gatherings, and how people are moving those online or otherwise, and how we're communicating with funders. So please unmute yourself if you would like to share how you're handling any of those. I think first thing is I saw a lot of newsletters, folks communicating with their matches and how they're handling programs. Or handling matches, I'm sorry. So does anyone like to share what's going on with their program, or if you have a challenge you want to put out there too and see how others are responding? So you can go ahead and put in chat, or if you'd like to make a comment, unmute yourself and share away.
Well, greetings all. This is Yolanda from Big Brothers Big Sisters of Northeast Iowa. And I'll share what our team is doing. Currently, we are actually all working remotely. I was in the Omaha area, and so as you know, Governor Reynolds has asked anybody that's traveled outside of Iowa to self-quarantine. So I and my entire staff are working remotely to follow those orders. But we have suspended all in-person match meetings with matches, as well as match activities, with the help of, I didn't pay attention to that. Central Iowa, we made some updates to some resources that went out to bigs and families today. I also have my staff checking in regularly, actually, with all of our bigs, parents, and littles, since a lot of them are home right now. Not just doing match support, but also doing well checks and seeing where we can be of assistance to them at this time. And the benefit, I mean, there is no real benefit to this, but I would say the silver lining for us is that we have been able to reach the majority of our match parties at this time. So we've really kind of stepped up and said we want to support them, whether that's just chatting through. We've also shared we're a UHC group health member, and so there's a free resource through them that we've provided to all of our match parties as well if they're feeling stressed or emotional about what's happening with this. We're really just doing our best to share every resource that we can and just let them know that we've been there. On the other side of this, I would share, if you don't know, our agency has really been challenged financially the past 6 months. And so with a fairly new team, what I've shared with my team is that we could be like a lot of these businesses here where a lot of staff members have been laid off and they're currently not working. And to look at the silver lining and the blessing in it of we are still here supporting our community and we're still working. And so we are already making plans to get out in the community, just keep us in mind, and really look at larger corporations for sponsorships for Bowl for Kids' Sake, which we've just sent that out today that we are postponing all of those events. So that's kind of where we are right now. And then also just looking to see if we can also get some other resources or ideas that we can help better support our community, although we don't have the resources right now, especially with just watching for symptoms, but as we kind of get through this quarantine period, how we can better support our community here in Northeast Iowa.
Thanks, Yolanda. Yeah, I appreciate a lot of the ideas that you shared too, and I think so important, the monitoring, just upping that and making sure we are checking in programs, and like you said, just expanding that support. Are you encouraging matches to meet other than in person then?
Yes. So we're saying meet video chat, mail, text. I mean, any kind of way that we can allow them to do that. We also have something I worked on last night. I sent to my staff today and I saw it in our Big Brothers Big Sisters National Workplace. It was a school closure communication consent form, so that all of our school-based bigs that typically wouldn't have conversation outside of school with those families, we have made sure to get that updated, and our staff is actually calling school-based and work-based bigs to see if they are interested in that conversation of maybe calling, FaceTiming, Facebook messaging, whatever it is that we can do to keep those littles engaged with their bigs at this time.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was going to ask a school program if they wanted to chime in, because there certainly is the difference from community-based programs that are used to having contact information and school-based programs that wouldn't have that contact outside of the school meeting site or other site-placed matches. Any school program want to talk about what else they're doing?
Yeah, this is Jay Wright from Teammates up in Sioux City. Hey, I'll just say, so we went round and round. This was a tough one because all of ours is school-based.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, hey, you can't share emails, you can't share text messages. So there was some talk at first, well, let's open that up a little bit. Or like, well, what's going to happen on the back end? Because once that fifth grader gets somebody's phone number, they're not going to give it back, right? They're still going to have it next year. Mm-hmm. And you can say, hey, don't communicate that way, but that's hard to get back. So we have some things in place where like, hey, if they want to email like the coordinator at the school, they could then forward that message on, they could be kind of the go-between. But what we've actually got set up now, it's just a matter, we don't have it rolled out and quite ready to go yet, but we actually put something together through our own website, through our own system, where they can, you could type in a message to your mentor, let's say, or to your mentee. It would go to Teammates Central Office. They would then be able to get that forward on. So it wouldn't be on this person at the school to have to do all that communication. It could just go through our own system. The advantage of that is we have people on staff that can then check those messages and make sure there's nothing inappropriate on there, anything that would be a risk issue before sending it on. So I like the fact that it's in-house that way, as opposed to just giving out phone numbers and giving out email addresses. We're going to be able to kind of in-house keep that communication going, because it's a time that some kids are going to need that communication. But like we said, we've also stopped all in-person matches, but you want some of that communication to keep going. So that's kind of where we're at. But as everybody knows, it's kind of day to day with some of this stuff.
Right, and the struggle is not knowing how long this might go on. That, obviously schools are closed now for the 4 weeks, but we don't know if it might be longer too. And just thinking even too what that looks like if, we don't come back at the end of the school year, or these even these community-based matches are not meeting for that length of time too, what we'll continue to do in these situations. Anyone else wanted to speak to how they're handling match meetings?
Hello, this is Dan Johnson from Children of Promise in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, hi Dan.
Hey, how you doing? We're similar with us being community-based, and half of we do some school-based stuff too. We're looking at how we can make a few changes in how we have our service delivery as well. With us not being able to meet, we do have a lot of mentors who are now doing we've got them doing teleconference, like that was said, FaceTime. We're going to do, I'm meeting with my team tonight. We're going to do some age appropriate over the phone and FaceTime games that allow them, mentors, to not just sit there and say, so how are you doing? They'll actually be able to engage the mentee. And so there'll be some preset questions and games that they can play over the phone, that they will be able to have some type of interaction. So then when they meet throughout the week, they'll have something to continue that conversation on. But the other thing is working with kids who have incarcerated parents, it almost is always, we're on alert all the time. And so we're already doing, like, we've already been looking at food, how to provide food, clothing, and all of those things. So we kind of built up a network, and the families have jumped in to help one another where they can, while they're doing the social distancing. A lot of those families meet, we have a program where the families meet. And so we have what's called GroupMe on our phones. And so all the families can coordinate and conversate and share pictures and stuff on what's called GroupMe. And so they'll be able to have a conversation without using their texting minutes or hours, where they can talk to each other. And if anybody needs any extra support, they can tell one another without actually being face to face. And so I think the biggest thing is maintaining relationships, because, a younger kid not being able to see their mentor face to face can look like rejection.
Yeah.
So I ask my mentors to explain as much as they can. And so we're going to do case management, where we meet with our mentors via the phone to coach them on how and what to say. If they're not getting the response that they're getting, we're giving them an opportunity to speak with us via phone, because the relationship is theirs. We have one, but we want to make sure that they have the support that they need, so they can continue. Like Mary said, we don't know how long it's going to last. But one of the things I've done with Children of Promise is, if this program never existed beyond some situation, or I call it beyond the four walls of this program, that these matches will continue with or without us. And so I put in a lot of work in the front. You hate to say it that, but this does put things on hold for a while. So you want those relationships to kind of metastasize themselves, continue to work themselves, and so then they're stronger after we get back together. So that's just my.
All right, this is Yolanda again. There was something that he said that I wanted to bring up. So we have a TechSoup account, and so we're getting a Zoom account, which is if you have a TechSoup account, you can get a Zoom subscription for a year for $65. And one of the things that we talked about today was doing a match activity via Zoom. We can have 100 participants. And so we're looking at, what does that look like? Maybe it's a virtual bingo or some type of game or something like that. But just if anyone, is thinking about how to do match activities, I think that would be a great way to get a lot of your participants engaged and involved. And I know we're pretty excited about figuring out what does that look like, and then getting our bigs and our littles to be engaged with that.
And I love this, just looking at its opportunity, that's something you never would have done otherwise, and getting excited about doing something different too. That's a great approach.
Absolutely. Like a couple years ago, a kid was like, "Can I do mentoring over the phone?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." And then now it's like, of course. So yeah, in situations like these, you end up having to kind of redo things anyway. So I mean, this is a good segue to it, and it is fun. It changes things, but it is fun to think about how we can use technology when we know that technology does also provide a negative connotation and actually can have a positive outcome too. So thank you.
I'm wondering if any programs have moved their fundraisers to virtual fundraisers. Has anything to share about that? I know there were lots of the Bowling for Kids' Sake thing is coming up, and I'd heard from some other programs that had to postpone in-person fundraisers, but did anybody take those online?
So March 21st, we were.
I'm sorry. Can you were cutting out. You want to?
Hello.
Yeah. Do you want to start again?
Yeah. All right. This is and so we were supposed to have our big, huge annual fundraiser on March 21st, and we postponed it, obviously, with what's going on. Sent out things in a letter and via social media leaving the link open for people to still donate or send in what they had raised, letting them know that we're planning on rescheduling it at a later date, and have just kind of gone that route because we've never had to do it before. So that's what our team decided to do.
Great, thanks, Colleen. Anyone else have concerns about funding or like grants or other funders and relaying to them challenges of meeting grant requirements or how those things are being handled? Have you communicated with funders?
Hi, this is Christy Arlt from Big Brothers Big Sisters of Siouxland. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Christy.
Before I talk about our funding concerns and how we're trying to be proactive about it, Yolanda, I love the idea of virtual bingo. If we could share how logistically we're going to get that done, I would love to do that with our program because our match activities are very popular and obviously keeps the kids really connected with their littles. We're doing the same things that Yolanda said, where our staff is working from home. Unfortunately, I had a new staff that was about 3 weeks in training as a mentoring coordinator. We did have to lay her off, but hopefully we'll be able to bring her back when things begin to normalize again, whenever that is. Regarding funding issues, we decided after listening to Zuri's virtual webinar on doing your Bowl for Kids' Sake virtually and trying to do type of auctions and things, we decided that we were not going to do that. We have postponed our event till June, but then that may be pushed to July or August. We're hoping to do one, obviously, but it's really hard to set a date right now because of the fear of not knowing. What I did last week was I reached out to a few key funders, businesses and donors that have been really good to Big Brothers Big Sisters and have really supported the mission over the years. And I empathize that it's a very difficult time even for businesses that are presumably not as affected with the coronavirus yet, and just asked if they would consider giving a gift at this time. So we were able to raise about $10,000 in a couple days. Granted, $10,000 doesn't go too far when you were expecting, $70,000, $80,000 from your Bowl for Kids' Sake. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of what I'm doing right now. It's a tricky thing, obviously, as a fundraiser to not push businesses and individuals because they have their own, situations with their staff and businesses. So obviously, this is uncharted territories, but I would be interested if any other groups, if they're not doing any virtual fundraising, if they, I thought about sending a letter out to our annual appeal givers just to see, thank you for your donation. This is a tough time. If you would consider supporting us in the short term with duplicating your annual appeal gift. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but again, this is uncharted territory for all of us. So that's a question that I pose too, if there are any other ideas for raising money just to sustain us, because obviously with our fundraisers being postponed, that's a tremendous hardship on a lot of agencies.
Does anyone else have anything to share on that end about reaching out to donors at this time?
One other thing that I'll add that some of our bigs are doing, and again, we don't encourage bigs to spend money on their littles, but sometimes they do. We've had some that have gone to Amazon and gotten some arts and crafts supplies, and they can directly just ship to their home for something to do. I know my little Nene, I'm going to send some puzzles, and there's we have a pottery place in Sioux City where you can paint and then at a later time bring it back, and they put it in their fire to solidify the paint job. So those little things too, even little Easter cards or just sending little notes, I think, in the mail to littles will go a long way because, again, I don't remember who said it, but especially if you have littles, that fear of abandonment could definitely be something that could be concerning if they were used to seeing their big regularly throughout the month and then not seeing them at all. So, and if they don't have phones, and there's lots of challenges, obviously, but we're just encouraging our bigs to FaceTime, text, call, send little notes, anything just to keep them connected during this uncertain time.
Yeah, I
Christy,
really.
quick
I just
question
would
for
say
you.
not overlooking the power of mail, because we don't get personal things in the mail very often anymore, and that is a thrill for a kid. So that is powerful.
Yes.
So excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's okay. I was just wondering, I know I looked at MediaCom here. I know a lot of the internet providers for low-income families are currently providing 2 months of free service. And then after 2 months, it's like $9.95 a month for internet service. And don't know if you've looked at the internet service in your community, but that is something that we did share. I know that they did in Des Moines area as well. We looked at MediaCom, and if they sign up before May 15th, they get those 2 months. And I'm sure at that time, if we're past this and they want to cancel, I think that would be okay. But that was just something we wanted to ensure we offered. And then if anybody is in our area, we've recently closed all of our outreach offices just due to financial constraints. But we have a ton of extra board games and puzzles and items. And so if anybody is close by or we can work out something, we would be willing to share and give some of those resources away if that was in the best interest of kids in the Iowa community.
And that's you, Yolanda, in Waterloo?
Yes.
So folks know if you're in that area, Eastern Iowa, Northeast Iowa. Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments about reaching out to donors? I know it is kind of, it's kind of a tricky situation. I do think that people are looking to be able to do something, and they can volunteer virtually, but it's hard to be able to volunteer and go out and do something in the community. So I feel like that doing a little bit of outreach like that too, people want to do something, and people are still getting paid in their jobs and do have the means. I think they would be looking to do something too. So I think that's another contact and touch point with our donors, and to have them recognize the effects that it has. The effect of this on nonprofits is not really in the news, except for those that are serving directly, that are serving directly people affected by the coronavirus. So I think it's just another way to let people know too how this is affecting nonprofits as well.
Absolutely.
Hi, this is Cassie Gerst, and I had some thoughts in listening to everybody. So I'm with Burlington Community School District, and we have a peer-based mentoring program and a community-based mentoring program. And in my role at the district, I want to encourage everybody to please reach out to your school district administration if possible. So the schools and all the communities are doing so much for their children and families, and everything's moving really quickly. But I know that there's so much that they're putting into place, from providing Chromebooks and Wi-Fi access, and what they're doing for meals. And so I hadn't heard a lot about that on this call yet. And so I just encourage you to make sure to not duplicate services or look to start something that maybe a school district is already doing. With the FEMA funds that will eventually become available, many school districts are keeping logs of time spent related to COVID-19, and with the food service and distribution of meals, that can all be reimbursed and charged back to FEMA. So there's a lot that districts have access to and are doing that could really help your matches and your students and their families as well. The internet service isn't always available in lots of these rural communities that are being publicized for free. So in my area in rural Iowa and Southeast Iowa, we don't have the same access. So we're not able to do some of the free things that are happening. But Instead, we're doing a lot with our district to our families and kids, and we have 2 free sites right now, and we've been approached by lots of community agencies about food banks and let us volunteer. And I always say, definitely, and let me get you to the right person, because while everybody wants to help, I think having a coordinated effort to do so is really beneficial. And we don't know what the future weeks are going to bring. So, but just an email or a phone call to the administration, district offices are and I wanted to make a comment about the grants and funding. So part of my role is a grant writer for the district. So I manage quite a number of grants. And what I found is that phone calls to the grant program officers is the best way to get some answers. There's some reluctancy from different federal, state, local funders to put some things in writing because it is a moving target. I mean, everything is just changing so rapidly. But in having phone call conversations, I've had approval to do a lot of different things. So continuing to pay staff, allowing staff to work at home, but us still being able to charge grants. So I encourage you to, if you don't get a response on email, definitely call some of those people. And I found it to be extremely helpful and some reassurance during this time.
Thanks, Cassie. Great tips there. And like you said too, like the internet access too, I do think schools are going to they're going to be looking at that too. If they're not doing distance learning now in this 4 weeks, if it gets to be longer, that they are going to have some access for all of their students. So they're going to be looking for those solutions so we can contact local schools. I see Anna posted in from Everybody Wins Iowa that they are encouraging their mentors to create videos of themselves reading books, and they can post those on social media. And I know that local libraries are another good resource, that they're kind of doing virtual story times and that kind of thing too. But that could be an activity that matches could somehow share virtually too, is reading books together for the younger kids. Right.
Mary, this is Lynn at Big Brothers Big Sisters here, Heart of Iowa, Big Brothers Big Sisters in Marshalltown.
Hi, Lynn.
I received some information from our chamber about the Iowa small businesses that might be affected by this as can apply for an economic injury disaster loan. And I don't know a whole lot about this, but I did inquire, does this include nonprofits? And she said, yes, I believe so. So there's a filing application deadline for that for December 17th of 2020, which really my hesitation on even attempting this is like, I don't even know yet exactly what that all is going to entail. But if I know that there's some possible help for this, then I will be maybe keeping track of some of those kinds of things where we feel like we're, we canceled 2 Saturdays so far for the Marshalltown area for Bowl for Kids' Sake. And we still have one scheduled for Grinnell for the end of April that will probably be canceled as well. Actually, they're called postponed at this point in time. Don't know how that's going to shake out in the end. Are we able to reschedule those and carry those on forward, or are we going to wind up trying to figure out how to make that up, or do we have to, I don't know how that's all going to work yet. But knowing that, and then the impact on staff, and maybe lower numbers of grants being available because of it, or any of those things. But it would give me at least some time in order to see how this is all going to play out before I really have to submit the application. And if anybody wants this, I can send it to you, Mary, if you want to pass this on to people.
So If you can
Go ahead.
see the document I'm sharing at the bottom, program resources, I do have that link to the Small Business Association Disaster Loan Program. And as Lynn said, it is available to nonprofits and it's a low interest loan. The other link that's there too is the one from the independent sector, the federal policy updates. They're hosting a call on Thursday and looking at they're doing a lot of lobbying with some of these relief efforts too. So there'd be more grants and forgivable loans, opportunities for nonprofits. So I think the independent sector seems to be leading that charge a little bit on the federal level as far as the lobbying. And that might be a call that'd be interesting to folks on Thursday to see what's going on at the federal level. And so you could reach out to our congressional delegation as well.
Thank you.
Felicia said we've been also talking about program evaluations and what that will look like. Do you want to speak a little bit more about that, Felicia?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a 4-year-old in the background, so I apologize.
Well, that we can talk about that too, our new working conditions, right?
So I feel kind of bad bringing up evaluations when everyone else is talking about probably the more meaningful things, but we have been talking about how we can administer evaluations that are required for our grants, but also our program evaluations, and how we can continue to get that data. And because we don't know if school will even go back, we're kind of, sorry, I have a little person kicking me. Trying to figure out a process now and collect that data now, just in case we don't go back and people have kind of, their minds aren't really thinking about mentoring, if we don't go back for the rest of the school year. So hopefully that makes sense. I apologize. I'm trying to multitask here.
No worries. No worries. No, I think that is kind of referenced that before too, just thinking about what the end of the school year will look like if we don't ever return. And so thinking about what will we do how will we do program evaluations? And I think that Cassie had a great point to just reach out to funders too, if the evaluations are for a specific grant, that you just reach out to them and talk about what those constraints might be.
Yeah, and we have reached out, and one particular is IDPH, and we have somewhat of a plan for that, and we've been getting assistance from them, so that's been helpful.
Good. And Jay asked if the agenda and the links will be available, and I will send it out to everybody, whether or not they attended this. I'll send this out after the call as well. And Felicia shared her experience working at home with the 4-year-old, kicking her as she's trying to get her work done. What else are folks doing working from home and trying to support staff and support each other? Anybody have tips or tricks or how that's working out for them?
Well, I'm isolated here away from all my family and loved ones back in Omaha, so that's been extremely challenging for me. But I have a staff member who has a 18-month-old at home. And so what I've shared with her, I've been doing touch bases every other day via telephone outside of our group chats. And I just shared with her to work her day what makes most sense for her. And so if that means that she clocks out at 2 and clocks back in at 4 or 5 to make phone calls and do match support, as long as she's putting in her hours and she's tracking what she's doing. I think the biggest part is being flexible with your staff, especially if they're working remotely, because obviously everybody has different situations. And so I just think that being flexible is going to greatly help your staff, yourself, and it's also going to really let them understand that you as a leader and your agency really cares about them during a very challenging time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know we're all working remotely in our offices too. Well, for the most part, working remotely. And, we're just trying to touch base more often and we have Teams, but we can video chat. And, I try to take a shower on those days if I'm going to turn the camera on. But it does, that does help.
Mary, you something else.
That does help to just be able to see each other. And I know last week someone even posted too, like let's have a team's happy hour, and everybody just after work just chat for a little bit too, and just trying to even post little things. I just shared a Neil Diamond video of the parody to Sweet Caroline he did. It's hands, don't touch hand, or washing hands. Don't touch me, I won't touch you. So I encourage you to check that out. You know, just a little humor too to lighten the situation. Mentor Dubuque says they're working from home 3 days a week and the office 2 days a week. And yeah, workspace in your home that's different from home space. And there are a lot of tips out there too. I think I have a link about that too, about working from home and just like trying to create, like, you know, you get up and you go to work, kind of the same thing, kind of having a routine, even if it's not your regular routine, as Yolanda shared, being flexible, but just having a routine where you're working and then you're done working too, so that you can have some space at home too that's not work time.
Yeah, and I was going to say that I appreciate hearing that, because, you know, when some people are in panic, they start to think a lot different. And they're some of our staff this morning were just more or less wanting to know about budgets and what people were doing, and not really concerned about how people are doing. And so in that same breath, we have to also take our opportunities to see where they're coming from, plus see, because, you know, something like that, I mean, you know, you want people in this time to be more concerned about individuals and not about, I think something like this also make rubber meets the road too. You know, you find out what your why is really about.
Absolutely.
You start seeing your family different. And then, like, I have little kids too, and they're wondering, why are you here? Because you're usually gone. And it's
Right.
like, but see, we have to remember why we're doing this. You know, I had a staff member wrote me an email. They didn't ask me how I felt or how I was doing. They just wanted to know so they could go into their meeting and report what was going on. It made me feel jaded. And so I think at the end of the day, I'm glad I'm not that way. And I definitely got a chance to see what my why is really about. And I haven't met any of you personally, but I can hear it in you guys' voices that you really care about what you're doing. And that makes sense to me, and it keeps my why going. That's why I jumped on this call, because sometimes you get isolated running mentoring programs, because people think, well, that's just that mentoring is just like everything else. It is not. It is not. It's a completely different ball of wax. It's a completely different game to play. And I would say to most on this phone call, these kids are like our kids. These are our kids. Some of them have gotten near and dear to our hearts. Our mentors have become brothers and sisters, so to speak. And when someone asks a question off the cuff, it kind of makes me wonder why. So I'm just glad to be able to hear some of the things I've heard. And it does speak oodles for Iowa. We do get out here and we do what we have to do. And I'm a Marine, and there's no man left behind. So I appreciate it.
Thanks. I love that. Just, getting to reminding ourselves of the why, or getting to the why we're doing what we're doing. And it is, like I said, we're in the business of relationships, and that's why I thought it was important that we had this opportunity to come together. I wanted to share some resources. I said the agenda says and guidance. Our guidance is do what's right for your program. We do not have the authority to tell programs what they need to do or how they need to run programs. And you guys are the experts out there too, and know what's going to work best for your community and for your kids. So we just want to make sure that you know that we're here for a resource. If it's be a thought partner, talking through issues, if we can look for resources, and we'll talk about maybe ways that we can continue to share ideas with each other. I did the talking with youth about COVID-19 and the resources for families. I think I put those out before in the email. 211 we know is the health reporting for the coronavirus too, but it also is basic needs. If they're looking for food and financial assistance or other things too, you can refer families to 211. And we talked about local school districts. The program resources, we did mention the SBA disaster loan program. The independent sector, that's just a link to their website. And then as well as the federal policy updates is a link to that call that they're hosting on Thursday, if that would be of interest. The independent sector has also hosted a couple of webinars this last week that it might be of interest to you too, which is about leading nonprofits in this time. Network for Good has a great website with a whole bunch of links about fundraising tips in times of crisis you might want to check out. the Iowa DHS just has a document, COVID-19 and your mental health, which might be helpful for us personally, as well as sharing with our matches and our staff. The mental health supports for professionals who work with youth, as well as youth resources, is a link to some online programming that the school mental health organization, Please Pass the Love, is going to be hosting. Everything from chats for nonprofit professionals and school personnel, people that work with youth, and also a couple webinars just supporting us. And they're also doing the story times for kids, and they have different activities for every age, elementary, middle school, and high school. So that might be a resource to share with your matches as well. Mentor has some resources online relative to this time that we're in now too. So I encourage you to check out that link as well. Just another reference from Mentor, where been in a lot of communication with them, and we're having an affiliate call too, and they are putting together a survey to go out to all of the mentoring programs across the country too, and they're looking at how they might, if there's a possibility that they could support some kind of e-mentoring in the interim too. And there are a lot of great programs out there, but it's great expense. And as programs said, they're not looking to go to become an e-mentoring program. It's just something in the interim. So I will keep you posted on that. And when that comes out, I'll make sure that you all see that link, and so that we can have Iowa a voice in that as well. Oh, I'm not sharing my agenda anymore, as I just rattled off all of that. Thank you. Gosh, what did I do here? And I will send this out. So the other thing we just really want to encourage is there, it's up again, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just really want to encourage your own self-care in this. I think this call is hopefully part of your self-care, to hear others that are in the same boat as you. Obviously, you've seen a lot of things, and we were talking about this too. Just encourage you to stay connected or reconnect with folks. This is just an opportunity to take a step back and think about those relationships in your life that are important. I know from personal experience that it's important to limit the amount of news that you're taking in about coronavirus. My husband went out and spent $160 on groceries after he thought the world was going to end one day after listening to the news all day. So, it's helpful to take a step back. Yes, you want to be informed and know what's going on, but the constant barrage can really add more stress to your life as well. And just look for those outlets. Like I said, I'm humoring myself with finding these musical parodies. I know there's lots of concerts online and things like that, because everybody's in the same boat, and they're home and trying to entertain themselves. So just a few things, but just encouraging you, while we're all trying to take care of other people, and that's what you do for a living, to take a step back and care for yourself as well. Does anyone else have other tips along that line, or things they're doing for themselves?
Just make sure something for me. I know I'm cooking a lot because I'm at home, and that's what you do when you're at home, but also making sure that I'm taking the time to work out, since I'm kind of in the house at the moment. I randomly, right before this happened, bought one of those old school indoor trampolines. And so I have an inside workout, but I'm also utilizing that as part of my workout routine. And those concerts on Instagram and Facebook are giving me life over here. So I had a dance party the other day, and I burned 1,500 calories. So just remember that your physical health is very important, and the best part, you're at home, and so when everybody's doing their own thing, you can dance like nobody's looking, and even if they look, so what? Because at the end of this, they're going to be 20 pounds heavier than you. So that's very important.
Thank you. Good reminders. I know you're not able to leave the house right now, it doesn't sound like, but I do think just the getting outside too, because we are all cooped up, and just getting outside, even if it's for a walk. I know people are really incorporating. It's amazing to go outside and see how many people are outside, 6 feet apart, of course. But I think that is just really important for all of us too.
Absolutely.
This is Lynn in Marshalltown again, and to be honest with you, I have found the office to be my hideout, because everyone's working remotely but me, so I can be here. But I have 2 college daughters who have had to move home last week, and are finishing this semester online, and my husband, who's retired, and there would have been no way I could get anything done at home. So I'm actually actually being productive, but at work.
I know that this whole stir crazy everybody at home too. It's like, can we social distance from our families?
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be farther than 6 feet apart. We do need our space in our own homes too. Definitely. So Nicole was going to share some more updates from the IMP.
Yes, Mary, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to share to our my family, our self-care is that we were looking at getting a puppy this summer when the kids were off school and we all had more time for training. But we have bumped that up and we're getting one this Saturday. So that will be our little bright spot in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Name it Corona.
Yeah, Corona. That would be very appropriate. Okay, so kind of logistics. Something that we've had to postpone that we were looking forward to is the April 21st Excellence in Mentoring Awards and the Volunteer Hall of Fame Award ceremony that takes place at the Capitol. And that included the opportunity this year for mentoring programs to come and table and spread the word about their programs at the Capitol as well. So as of now, that is just postponed until further notice. And we're kind of in the same boat of waiting to see how long these policies go on. And we will definitely keep you updated as soon as we know more about when that will be rescheduled. There is, for the IDPH mentoring RFP, there is an increased money to go out to mentoring programs. So we definitely encourage you to take a look at that, and we encourage applications so that as much money as possible can go out to mentoring programs across the state. The Iowa Mentoring Partnership is happy and we're able to consult on any questions, or Mary has offered to look at applications as you're working on them. So please see us as a resource for that. If you have official questions for IDPH, the way to get those questions answered is to submit them through Iowa Grants. So that is a way to get your official questions answered directly from IDPH. Any questions at this time about that funding source?
That deadline is April 21st, and that has not changed. But yeah, I really do encourage what Nicole said. I really encourage our program strongly to look at that. I just really want this money to go out to mentoring programs.
Great. Yeah, so please utilize us as a resource as you're looking at that application. If you just have brainstorming ideas or want us to look at a draft, we are here for you. And then the third update is if you do find yourself in a situation where some of your events and your regularly scheduled duties have come to a pause, this is a time that we are available to work with programs on the NQMS, the National Quality Mentoring System. So I know we have some programs that have expressed interest in going through the review and the self-assessment, but they just haven't, it hasn't been their top priority time-wise. So if you find yourself that's been something to do on your to-do list, now would be a great time. And Chad and Mary and I are happy to help and answer any questions logistically to get you going in the system, or questions related to continuous improvement. We have a lot of programs that have gone through the initial self-assessment and have had their review call with us. And some of those programs have set some goals for continuous improvement to work on. And we are happy to help you kind of reassess if you've met those goals. And there is a second level of badging in the NQMS system for when you have progressed in some of your goals. So we have the time, and we are happy to meet you wherever you are at, whether it's just waiting to do that, or if you have and now you want to look at your goals, or if we need if you need more resources, examples of templates, documents, we can help you with that. So please reach out to any one of us, and we will get you going or meet you where you're at with NQMS.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yep.
If you would go ahead in the chat box now, I just would like everyone to indicate whether they would be interested in a regular programs call like this throughout the duration of this in-home or anyway, when we're having a lot of this response to the outbreak. If you'd like to have regular calls, if you want to either respond yes or not interested, or you can say yes weekly or yes bi-weekly or not interested. Just we want to provide the support that that you guys are interested in. And the other thing I do want to point out is that we do have the Iowa Mentoring Partnership Programs page where we could share these resources folks have been talking about and their ideas for activities for matches or group activities. And I just really want to encourage you, it's not just our partnership page, it's the programs page, and get on that. It's not been something that it's been used hit or miss, and I know it's not been very active for a while, but that would be a place where people could post resources and share ideas. And I just think that would be great to reactivate this at this time. So I'm seeing a response for yes, mostly bi-weekly it looks like. So we will get something on the calendar and get that out to folks too. But obviously in the meantime, you know how to find us. We are working full time. You guys don't know the difference whether we're sitting in the office or sitting in our home. So we're here and able to respond to needs and are open to other things that you think that we could be doing to support programs. So please reach out and let us know if you think there's something else that we could be doing for support. Does anyone else have questions or other comments at this time before we wrap up? Well, if not, I really appreciate the discussion today and everyone's input and thoughts. Appreciate everything you're doing always, but especially during this trying time. Just really encourage you to continue to take care of yourselves, and please do reach out. We're happy to help in any way that we can. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Barry.